So this is another example of a bathroom that had issue with the air conditioner. The overflow on the A-coil spilled over and then ran inside the bathroom and into the hallway some too. That's very typical. What you want to do is every year, sometimes twice a year, you want to blow out that line that goes for a drain. And it's I'll talk about that another time, but that drain line needs to go to the other side of the house, not on the uphill side, the downhill side. Otherwise, that water could literally make this house settle because that moisture underneath the piers will make the house settle down. So this is an important thing. Maintain your drain line and clean your A-coils. A lot of people don't know how to do that, but there's plenty of, maybe at some point I'll show you how to do that. You can buy a little aerosol can that sprays and cleans it all up. I'll show you all that another time. But anyway, that's what happened here. But it could be a leak from a cabinet, sink cabinet, or from a tub overflowing. It could be this issue. So what we're going to do today is tear out this floor. We're actually going to leave the cabinet in. We're going to pull the toilet, remove the trim, and put in a new door. This actually is not a door that came from the factory. It's been put in. We're going to put in the door jamb, which we'll have to widen this out. I'll show you all that. We're going to put new tile down. I'll show you two different methods of glue. And then we'll put the toilet back down. We'll put new tile in, new trim. We'll pull the carpet back because we have a split there in the carpet. From the factory, you don't normally have this split right here, so this has probably been carpet that's been replaced. We'll pull this back and we'll look and see if we have any damage here that we need to work on. Because particle board deteriorates slowly quite often, and you might have a bad area and it take another year or two before it totally falls through. It's all held together with glue. Everybody says, well, you should always use plywood instead of particle board. Sort of. The issue is water soluble glue is put in plywood that puts in layers, so if water gets on that plywood, it'll delaminate and it will not fall through like particle board does, but it will roller coaster and the layers will come apart. So water's a bad thing for wood. So if you know and have time, we won't have time on this one, when you put plywood in a kitchen or in a bathroom, if you have the time, paint it. And that way you can resist a lot of the damage that might happen from an overflow of a sink or an overflow of a toilet or an overflow of the tub or people stepping out of the tub. So just for your information, this is what we're going to do, and I'll guide you through it. The toilet's been taken up. It had some caulking around it, which is not a bad idea. It's just not a good idea. If you're thinking that it's going to keep it from leaking out, what it's doing is forcing it to hit the floor there, and it'll come out anyway. Anyway, what we did was shut the water off. If you don't have a shut off there, you have to shut the whole house down. Do it, because you have to remove the toilet to do a good job. Now, whenever you do that, then you flush your toilet, and then you disconnect your line, and there's going to be water coming down, so you might put a towel down, and then you're going to try to loosen up your tank bolts. In this case, like many cases, Tim, who's operating the camera, had to cut off those bolts with a sawzall, or you can take a hacksaw and there's a way to change the blade to a sideways, and then you can cut that off real slowly and cut those bolts off. Then you lift that toilet up, and in my case, we took and put stuff to cover up the tub, because we don't want to skin up or dirty up the tub, and put it inside there, and then put the tank in here. Now, before we put this tank back, and don't want water to come out of that trap, which is right here, what we'll have to do is rock that tank backwards and forwards, and more water will come out. Hopefully you won't have very much come out before. Then whenever you pull the toilet and put it in there, you better put something inside here, because if you don't, you'll end up savoring the smells that come out of a septic tank, because the trap is in the toilet, not in the floor. Like in a sink, the trap is underneath the sink. So you will not have a trap to stop the water in the bottom of that trap stops the smell from coming up. The trap, that's what that's for, is to stop the smell. So put something in that hole. Now we're going to cut out all this area, and we've also got the issue with the jam right here, been all rotted out from the air conditioning unit, not having the drain. And this is the drain.
Save.
This is the drain line, and this is the egg coil. And if that gets clogged up here, or if it gets clogged in that drain line all the way out, it'll overflow, drop down into your air conditioning vents, and all over onto the floor. That's what happens. This is not unusual at all. It happens a lot. And before you know it, your floor is rotted out. You don't even have a chance to fix it. So, once or twice a year, you need to clean that up and clean this up. All right? Hey guys, just we brought the trim back in so you can see. This is very typical. It's nothing unusual. The water might have overflowed from here, or the shower came down from here, or some people stepping out from here. The toilet could have overflowed, the sink could have overflowed. But when the water comes up here against this drywall, and there's no caulking right here, it'll go underneath the trim and then hit that drywall, and it will come up, and that's what you see right here. It's coming up the drywall, and it stains the trim at the same time.
Because it soaks into the drywall, right?
It soaks into the drywall, comes up here. Quite often you can literally see stains, and these have been painted over, but it's been a while since it's had any issue, but you can have the evidence right there in front of you. And so what we're going to do, whenever we get through with all this, replacing the floor and everything, we're going to caulk the front side and the top side of that trim. So, and not that it's going to make it a pond in here, but it will stop it from running, hitting the wall, wicking up. And I recommend you do the same. So, what we usually do is, when we get ready to replace the floor, is this is going to be tough, but we're this is actually not particle board. It's been replaced before. There's been tile put over top of linoleum. But we do that so that we can start the sawzall up against the wall and cut along that edge. And sometimes it's real easy, like there. Easy to get to. So that's what you do. You start, and then you put your saws on, you cut it at an angle, and cut it out. Okay, this pretty thing is not as pretty as it was. We took out the floor, which is a bit of a chore. We had to chisel around the edges, get everything cleaned up. We were fortunate enough to have wood on the outside. Quite often you have to build it out. At one point, I guess I'll have a job where I can show you guys how to do that. But a lot of times you can just fasten it to there. Underneath here, this cabinet is a point. We're literally going to go from here to there. Underneath the cabinet, we've got to crawl underneath there and fasten that to the floor joist over there. But I've already got all that cut. Put one piece in now. I'm using pressure treated wood, not because I have to, but because it's left over from a deck that we did. So it's just a plus for the customer. And I fit them in there tight between. So you cut them tight. And then so I put 3-inch screws in. Now, in reality, I could actually, like say for here, go like this. But I gotta make sure they're set good, and so how that twisted down, that always runs an issue. So you can actually go to the side also. But in this case, I'm going to go at an angle. And I'm going to put one, I'll put at least 2 per end. Now, do not use any coated screws, they're just more expensive. Doesn't do any better job. I do not use Torx if it's more expensive. So that way there's something for the plywood to be at that won't move. You put weight there, it won't move. We're going to put one here and here on both sides of that toilet so that I can cut and go underneath the toilet flange, which I'll show you that. So here we go. I'll try to cut you in here and there as I go along. All right, so in this situation we put wood alongside the tub with screws, fastening it, one on each side of the toilet flange itself, and then one underneath the cabinet, kind of out, so the edge of the cabinet will be done, and then one underneath the cabinet, which had to climb underneath and fasten it to the floor joist. So we fastened it here and then crawled underneath there and fastened it underneath the cabinet, so the cabinet's supported. In a minute I'll show you how we'll put in one right here, but right now we've measured the center of the flange and then measured the center to here, and then mind you that sits on top of the plywood, so it's actually about an inch back in here or more that the plywood needs to be cut in a circle around it. I guess I'll do a tutorial on how to cut toilet flanges when you don't have the tools, all the different ways to do it. And then we also have the water supply line. So this is CPVC, which will freeze. I generally encourage everybody to do PEX. The shutoff is leaking, but I think it'll be alright. I usually use quarter turn shutoffs, and this one's shutting off most of the way. We marked where the floor joist is here, where it is here, and where it is here. We've got the plywood cut and the piece go around. Now, means that we have one on each side. Not only does this give support to the toilet, but also it allows us to cut the plywood where we can go like so and have pieces instead of one solid piece, and have to cut the pipe and put it back together, which just causes more grief. A lot of times there's multiple connections and it goes on to somewhere else, so you don't want to do that. So that's why I've always added this, because it makes a better job, and then it gives me choices as to where to cut the wood and have screws underneath, screw it all together and be all laced together. So that's what we'll be doing next. Alright, what we've done is went ahead and cut this all the way down this floor joist that was right here. Then we slip this piece in, and then we put this piece in the top, slipped it underneath. We've already got this piece cut. Quite a jigsaw puzzle. Right after you have the centers and you got that cut, then you decide, hey, I can make that little distance right there, or I could have went from here to over to there and then tried to wiggle around that. I just didn't want to allow myself that much work, and quite often scratch the cabinet. But before I put this piece in, I want to support right here in front. So I'll show you what I do. I know that in between these two, 20 and quarter, it allows room, but I want to have at least 2 inches, 2.5 inches on each side. So I'll have to notch the 2x, turn it on edge, notch the 2x on that side with 20 and a quarter in between, 2.5 inches on each side. Then I'll put screws through here, and I'll show you that when we go back to it. So we're trying to get that 2.5 inches in this case. We're going to cut down 1.5 inches. My drywall issue, you can do this with squares, but I can do it real quick. I'm going to cut that section out, then I'm going to have 20 and a quarter over, 2.5 inches from there, 1.5 inches, 1 5/8 down. So I'm going to cut this section out here and cut that off. All right. side and put it, cut that like we showed you. Put a little screw in here so I can hold it. And now I'm going to drop it down through. And guess what? I need that screw to hold it. But I could do it with my hand, I guess. But if you need like a pry bar or anything else, you can hold it pretty steady right there. And I need 3-inch screws. Thanks.
Yep.
I'm having a blast. Now we have something solid for the floor to sit on, and we're supported on both sides for the cabinet. The cabinet won't move. Guess what? Now the next piece of the jigsaw puzzle goes in.
Which can be quite puzzling.
Looks like we'll have to do some cutting, because it's not wanting to be correct. 10.5 We'll have to cut this and we'll be right back. What we did is when I walked in, I would want, since I'm doing 12 by 12 tiles, I would want the full pieces on this side, so that would be what you would see. I'd also like to start them from this side, so the cut edges would be over there and the cut edges would be over there. So I marked 24 inches over, so I've got a line. So that'd be where I would want it to have enough to get up against the wall over here. So again, I'm going to put glue down. Normally you would put a commercial VCT tile or glue or other kinds of glue. There's a lot of different types, but I like the commercial. But normally you would need anywhere from an hour and a half to a day, depending on the humidity in the air, for it to dry and the temperature. So I'm going to show you guys an alternative, and it's not something you see all the time, but this is a fiberglass resin panel adhesive, and it grabs fast. But guess what? You can use it on tile too. So I'm going to show you how to do that. It's just basically the same as regular glue, but we're going to do it, and away we go. Guys, we've got the floor in, the fast grab, we put the trim in, we sealed it. Now, this is important. We sealed it at the bottom and the top of the trim, so if anybody steps out of here or it splashes off the shower, comes down, it won't go behind there, it won't go underneath there. And we rebuilt all that floor, including where he's standing over there, and sealed everything all the way around. And using the fast grab saves you some time, but it costs 3 times as much for the glue. And that's fiberglass resin panel glue. That dog is not happy. Anyway, there you go. Remember, you're Americans, not Americans.